Hi, I'm Dr. Vonda Wright, and this is Hot for Your Health. Join us for conversations on the bleeding edge of science, health, and culture as we bring you tech innovators, thought leaders, and the movers and shakers who are transforming science fiction into your new health reality. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot for Your Health, where I get to talk to the most fascinating people. And today, I'm so happy to talk to Dr. Suzanne Gilberg-Lenz, who is an LA-based, board-certified OB-GYN menopause specialist, sexual health specialist, but brings to the table a really, really special integrative medicine approach, as well as, and I don't even know if this is the right way to say it, Ayurvedic medicine certification, if that's what it is. But I think you hold a special place in the universe because you're the allopath, you're the integrative, you're the deep Indian medicine person, which we don't always get. And I love that about you. You not only all those things, but you're a consumer media specialist. You've been on all the shows, and you have a great book called the Menopause Boot Camp book that is associated with live retreats. So you've got this whole thing going on, not to mention, and we'll get to it at the end, you're now an entrepreneur. Start your own business to serve people better. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Vonda. It is such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack. I feel I feel really honored right now in my career to have this opportunity to look back at all of the things that I have adventured through and how I've used my own interest and adventure and curiosity to serve people. Because I do love service, but I'm an extremely curious person.
Mm-hmm. Well, it shows because you've taken you could have stayed on the very narrow allopathic path. I mean, that's where we all start.
Right.
As allopaths, we have a certain education, but then you've branched off and explored big ideas. And behind the scenes, I mean, on our chat group, on our high secret chat group,
Super secret. They don't all know. Nobody know or out at us.
But I want to ask you a question, just diving right in, that I was asked the other day at a longevity conference. And whenever I go to longevity meetings, which I adore, it's a little bit straight and narrow allopath. It's a little bit investigative journalism of medicine, meaning people are exploring, and it's a little bit, it's a little bit flea market.
No, totally. It's so interesting. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, you have to be curious. Yeah, exactly. I was there on a panel, and that I didn't know I was going to be on, with all the gurus in the longevity space. And somebody stood up and asked me a question. He's like, listen, you're an allopathic surgeon. How do you see the integration in this world? And you know, that question was just put before me, and I could have answered it badly, but I was happy I came up with something. How do you address that? Because you have not only recognized that curiosity is necessary to explore other things, you have done work in the spaces of integrative medicine and Ayurvedic. I said in my answer, 5,000 years of Eastern medicine can't be all wrong.
Right. Right. And oh my gosh, I say that a lot. So, you know, what a great question and what an important question. And I think it speaks to why I think it's very important for people who are really based in the conventional world, have a voice in the integrative world and vice versa. There has to be this bridging effect. And it's very interesting to me because, you know, my journey was that I didn't go straight into medical school. At the time, you know, when you're in your 20s, you think you're so old, but I took 4 years off
Yeah.
Where I went to medical school for a variety of reasons. I hadn't done my pre-med actually. So I already was doing things differently. I was already doing things my own way. And so I had a different perspective when I went to medical school and when I did my training. I knew that the world was bigger and I'd had some other experiences. I also grew up in a family. I was very, very fortunate. We traveled a lot even starting in my early childhood. My father's a physician as well, very curious, very open-minded. So I always had sort of a bigger cultural perspective. So it's really important. And I brought that to medicine. I trained at LA County Hospital, which, in the early 90s during the height of a massive gun violence epidemic here in the city. We had like the highest murder rate that we've ever had in the city.
Wow.
And so, and we're dealing with people from all over the planet. A lot of my patients did not speak English. Is that me or you? Unstable.
No, I'm pulling you closer to me.
Okay, cool. So these all conspired to give me sort of a bigger picture. I love science. I believe in the empirical method. I too have a surgical background as a gynecologist. I think people don't always realize, but we're surgeons. We're pelvic surgeons. So, precision and evidence are really, really important to me. But it was very, very clear to me very early on that there was a lot of other things at play, a lot of other things going on that weren't being attended to in my education, which is okay. Especially when you're on labor and delivery or you're in the operating room, like you need to focus on what you need to do. You're setting you that. That's no, and that's true. And I mean, that's how we're trained. We're trained. It's a little, I think with perspective, all of us think that there's a lot of trauma and toxicity in the training, which we could talk about at another time. And it has a big impact on us. And that probably did influence me to come out and seek something else. And I had just a serendipitous or not experience because I had a patient in my senior year of my residency who had come from a very holistic medicine. That was her thing. It wasn't that she didn't believe in Western medicine. She didn't really want to touch it if she didn't have to. And she got to a point in what was going on with her health where she had to. So she came in and we did surgery on her. And I watched her healing process. So you as a surgeon will appreciate this. I'm really going to answer your question, I swear. First of all, in the pre-op area, I went to go introduce myself to her. And she said to me, I have these essential oils. I'd like you to apply them before surgery because it will give you clarity in the operating room. And I was like, sure. Why do I care? You don't even know me. I'm about to cut you open, stem to stern. Sure, if that makes you feel good. But I was like, okay. And this is in 1998, 99. This is not recently where everybody's going to wellness conferences. Everybody does yoga and meditation. Nobody was doing any of that, even in LA, not doctors. What I didn't realize is she told me afterwards, my attending had come before me, who was a lovely guy, Southern, very conservative. And he kind of was taken aback. I don't think he said yes or no, but he visibly was like, what the hell? And she told me later, she really appreciated the openness with which I approached that situation. Cause it just made sense to me. Why wouldn't I, I am in the position of power. She's vulnerable. This is no big deal.
Right.
After her surgery, her room did not smell like the hospital. Her friends came in and brought her fresh food. She had Tibetan prayer flags strung all over. It didn't smell bad. She had a massive incision. She had a big vertical incision and she healed so well. It was fascinating. And she wanted to stay in touch with me. And I said to her, boundaries and I'm a resident and all that. And she gave me her phone number. And after I graduated, I was cleaning out the bedroom that was going to become my next baby's room. And I found her phone number. Oh, and I called her. I was like, who is this lady?
Yeah.
That was something's going on with her. And she ended up becoming my mentor. I did yoga with her. She taught me meditation. She was my Pilates instructor. And she introduced me to Ayurveda.
Interesting.
She said to me, did you know that yoga is a branch of Ayurveda? Ayurveda is the ancient healing system of India, kind of like Chinese medicine. I think you'd be into it. And I was like, cool, let me check it out. That's literally what happened.
That's amazing.
So how did I bring that in? I didn't bring it in at all. I was so on the down low about this because I was a new female attending.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous position to be in. You want to be real cool. You don't want to make any waves. You want to be excellent. You have to be better than everybody else. This is just the truth. I know you know this.
Yeah.
And I was in a field that's female dominated. And even in that, it was like, nope. So I was kind of like doing this. I thought I was doing it for myself. And then patients started hearing, hey, she's this doctor who's like a really good surgeon. She's at Cedars-Sinai. She teaches the residents, but she's not afraid of herbs. Has vegans in veganism was like, I remember my first vegan pregnant patient, and I was like, cool, let's learn about it. And she said, you are the first physician who didn't give me a hard time about my nutrition.
Protein. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, well, you know more about this than I do. You're actually a vegan. Let's just make sure, let me read. That was it. I just learned from my patients. So that's initially how I brought it in. And then I had some mentors who are academic, who were really supportive of me in my career, who asked me to come do a grand rounds.
Wow.
On a medicine.
Wow.
Well, you know what? It was she was a GYN. She's actually the chief of GYN oncology at UCLA. She's very, very well known ovarian cancer specialist. And I'll tell you, throughout my career, a lot of times doctors who treat cancer patients are more open-minded by design, because they're like, listen, this makes you feel better, whatever.
Yeah.
So she invited me. She was like, you are becoming an expert in this, and this is something that our patients are talking about. This is now maybe like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after I graduated. And so she gave me the stature, right? Like, she was like, she invited me.
She gave you a platform.
And she legitimized it. Suzanne is not crazy. And I was also there. I was still in I was teaching in the program that I was trained at. So I was a known quantity. And I very rapidly realized, these two communities need to talk to each other. And I'm bilingual. I can speak both languages. So I was in the Ayurvedic community as a physician, and they were actually quite grateful that an MD would train, because I did a full training program.
Yeah.
A whole thing, an internship. I made herbal medicine for my patients. It was a whole thing. And it was amazing. And then the residents were like curious, like, oh, what's that? Like, it's not like I was doing a whole lot. It was just more that it was visibility. And honestly, when I'm talking to you about it now, I'm seeing that I really am doing the same thing. Being visible and being authentic opens conversations.
Yes.
That's it. That's all it is. It's really not magic. But I always stuck to the science and the standard of care in my medical practice, but brought in some complementary things and supported my patients in their explorations. And I had the exact same attitude, which was like, first of all, it's so funny and arrogant that Western medicine thinks that this stuff fell into their brain out of nowhere. Like, where do you think we got it? Humans have always had health practices, have always had relationships with nature, have always had relationships with their physical being, with their spiritual being, that have been codified. This is not new. And the other thing that I love that people don't, this whole like using herbs, and I get, me, I get really offended when people call it woo and snake oil and really disparage it, and they are being racist. They say that because it's just that it's not basically Western European or American style medicine. 30% of pharma, at least, is derived from plants, many of which are from indigenous use. Aspirin is willow bark. We did not make that up. I could go on. So it's very tunnel vision, very colonial. I'm just going to say all the things. People don't realize they're doing that. They think that they're progressive and they're liberal and they're open-minded, and yet they're saying those words online, on social media, not hearing what they're saying. It is so disrespectful when the Chinese, the Indians, the Arabs, like people, culture, every single culture made medicine and had medical practices. And we built on that. We built on that. Technology is amazing. Surgery is amazing. There are surgical texts in the Ayurvedic canon, by the way. They knew this doesn't work. You're going to have to cut it off. We tried. It didn't work. There's some really cool like plastic surgical, like for, it's not for cosmetics, but like somebody had an infection on their nose and they had to figure out how to make a flap. I mean, it's
I'd seen those ancient pictures. I mean, the flap where they take the skin from the from the book. Ancient technique. That was not a modern technique. I figured that out long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that truly curious people, and I'm surprised I've even arrived here because I'm an allopath, but you know what? I was a nurse first. And I bring the whole person to my current practice. And that's what, this is what makes you different. And the reason people talk to me about the way I practice that's different is because I bring that biopsychosocial as a nursing concept. It's not very medical. In fact, what's so interesting? This is such a tangent, but to make money to go to medical school, I practiced as a nurse. I did PRN. And, I was so proud that I was going back to medical school. Nurses chart in a very different way, in a biopsychosocial way. Doctors just come in, we write our soap notes.
Right.
And so that's what I was trying to do, converting the holistic practice of nursing into a very narrow. And I guess the point is that the nurses didn't like it, and I was trying to be that thing I thought, which puts up a shield that stifles curiosity of other things, right? We just, what my daughter said to me once, my 17-year-old who's sitting over here, which changed my life. Talk to me about your reaction because you're a surgeon. She says, Mom, what's wrong with you? I love this. She's so wise. She says, your ego will not let you be wrong. And I think that is why, as a surgeon, an allopathic surgeon, maybe there's part of my ego that no, I'm so past that. Are you kidding me?
That's so not you, but I don't know. I haven't been in the OR with you.
It's not me now.
Yeah.
It was for years. And so what it would be, though, is this thing that I could not historically be open to the broader world that we're talking about.
But you know what? I think some of that is also how we get into medical school. You have to be so single focused. You have to be so confident in your own ability that you can do this. And then you start doing things to people that, might kill them. And then you're in a system where it's very fear-based, because especially for surgeons, but I think for anybody, like if you misinterpret the EKG or
somebody dies.
Somebody's health is in your hands, somebody's life is in your hands. And so there's a lot of fear. And so if you don't know that you're right, or you don't think you're right, and I think if you think about our training too, having to present in a certain way, because we eat our young. So like if you're not doing well, if you're the weak link, you're going to really get abused. Honestly, maybe it's better now. I don't really think it is. I think it's a little more covert. But you have to really present in this certain way, or you're not going to survive the system. And so it is hard to get away from that. And it's hard to be soft and hard to think about rounds when you're presenting as a medical student or a resident. Like if you go way off on a tangent on their social history, are you kidding me? Like, no, right? No, we don't have time for this. Nobody cares. I mean, the fact is, you should care. And I always had all the social history. That's the most important to me. That's telling me everything. It's also why I go to work every day. But, this is 25 years into practice as well. So most of what I do at this point is office-based and is narrative and is talking to patients and is getting their story. And that's probably how I wound up doing all the things that nobody else wanted to do: menopause, sexual health, whatever it is, mental health, because I am curious, and that's ultimately what I prefer to do. I love solving a problem. But I think as you get older too, the more you do medicine, the more what you don't know. So,
it makes you go search out the answer.
Exactly.
Well, given what you've just said in this conversation we've had, I want you to educate people who listen to me about what the approach that they deserve to have. If they're coming to your office, I don't know what to do with these night sweats in my thermometer leg, or something is dry as hell in my perineum and I don't know what's going on. Or given what we've just talked about the whole person and about the story that you elicit from them, what is the approach that you teach people that they deserve to have?
Well, I mean, they deserve to be heard because the problem for us in medicine, the problem for us as human beings interacting in the medical system is that the reason that these women are coming into us is that they're not being heard and they don't feel well. So first of all, often they're scared or anxious that something is really terribly wrong with them.
Mhm.
They are suffering because the symptoms they're having are disrupting their daily life and their capacity to just do the things that they need and want to do, like sleep, like take care of their families, like walk their dog, whatever it is, feed themselves. Like if you're not sleeping, you can't really do anything. So they have a problem that needs to be solved. Now what's problematic for all of us, them and us, is they are interfacing generally with the system where there's no time to hear them. And often the person who they're approaching um, doesn't really know what to do. And I'll tell you, as I just mentioned, from the beginning, it was always like, I don't know how to do that. Let's figure it out. I always was very honest about that. Like it didn't occur to me that I shouldn't say that. Like I, I think in the beginning, maybe you feel like you need to know everything, but quickly you realize you're never going to know everything. So you just have to partner with the patient. So that wasn't uncomfortable for me, but for a lot of our colleagues, it is. They are afraid to say, I don't know. And then again, we've talked about this so many times, but in an insurance-based system, you need to see volume. You don't have time to dig in for 25 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour and really get to the heart of the matter, understand who this person is, including their own personal history, their pregnancy history, which is incredibly important to your health. I mean, I surprise people all the time when I ask them at 60, did you have any medical complications during pregnancy? Why? Because if you had hypertensive disorders of pregnancy or gestational diabetes, your risk for those problems are probably twice as high as they would have normally been. And so I need to be following you for that. And nobody ever said that to them. Okay. So these are the things that take time. The other thing that I really want to do and I want people to look for, and I'm going to answer sort of really how I think this can happen, is they need to come in with a priority list, really, because you're not going to get a lot of time.
Mm.
And I think if you can get the one or two things at least addressed, even if they're not getting answered, you're going to be in a better position. You got to understand your doctor thinks you're coming in for an annual visit, and now you've got a 45,
I know.
question,
Yeah.
a minute questionnaire that you want to, like, that's not happening and it's not fair, but it's not real. It's not going to happen. Your doctor doesn't have time for it. Your doctor's not getting paid for it. And then your doctor's going to be late for the next 5 patients and they're all going to be yelling at her, which is not fun. It's not a fun way to do your job. So it's not cool. I agree, but this is not reality. So I think people need to do a little investigating, listen to podcasts, read, understand what's happening to the extent that they can, and then come in with that priority list or find out, can they come in for another visit to talk about it later? And if you're getting a lot of pushback for that, that's probably not your person, which I understand also isn't always solvable, because if you are locked into your HMO or your insurance that's coming from your employer, you may not have a lot of choices. And I mean, for me, what has happened is that I can't handle it anymore. I mean, personally or professionally, and I'm checking out of that system. I've been doing this work I am starting my 25th year in practice in January.
Mm.
And as of January 1st, as you know, I'm leaving my long-term beloved group practice where I'm the only gynecologist. Everybody else is doing obstetrics still.
Oh.
I'm the only one who does GYN only.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting a smaller private practice where I can devote more time and attention to my patients and to their long-term needs and to longevity and prevention, because the current system does not make that possible. And that was a really hard, painful decision to come to, because I love my patients, but seeing 25 plus patients a day doesn't give me the time to practice medicine in a way that I think is high integrity.
Yeah.
And it was very hard also because I felt bad, like I'm leaving patients who need
They
me,
need you. Yeah. They need you.
but I got to do what I got to do. And I think one of the solutions I've found is to do this kind of public education, to have a platform, to be visible, to advocate for people, to educate people. I just got off a coaching call. So I created Menopause Boot Camp, which is an actual experience. I wrote a book, and then I created a certification program. So I have a bunch of certified facilitators who have learned how to teach the Menopause Boot Camp, and we do a quarterly coaching. And it is so gratifying
Yeah.
to be on there with these women who are professionals of all different stripes, who are leading boot camps, who are supporting one another, who are supporting their communities, who are getting the word out, who are resourcing and actually helping people go into a system that maybe isn't so friendly to them
Yeah.
and advocate for themselves.
Well, and I think that work that you're doing is so critical because I believe, and I think you'll agree, I think my patients are smart people. And given the right information, they're going to make good choices. Because I am not, and I've never been the surgeon who says there is only one path. I start out with, okay, choice number one, you can do nothing. You know how this feels. And then we progress all the way. So I think this education system that you have created not only amplifies your personal physician method, but it empowers lay women. It's almost like in our church, in the churches I grew up with, you would have the laity, the deity, not the deity, the pastors,
Right.
and the lay people who are then educating other people. Like
Exactly.
true in every kind of church. And so that's kind of what you're doing, that model.
Yeah. Yeah. I always conceived of it as a grassroots effort because what happened is when I first started doing the boot camp, I was motivated because I couldn't do things in a 7-minute encounter and people had so many questions. And anytime I would speak or do an appearance, like the hands would shoot up at the end. Can you talk about bioidenticals? What is natural? Like all this stuff. And I was like, wow, people really don't understand this. They don't even have the basic language to understand what's happening in their own body. How can they go out into the world and navigate? I mean, the social media at the time was nothing compared to now, right? But even that was just so confusing. And I thought, I need to help people. I need to level the playing field here and just give them some basic education. And that's why I created it. And very quickly, I was like, oh, wait a second, I'm community building. Like it's so funny to me that it didn't even occur to me. And that was as important. And that actually has become more of my focus because I realized that in creating this common language and creating a space where people can be visible and feel safe, it gives them the resilience and the courage to go out into the rest of their lives, to do whatever it is that they need to do or want to do. If they want to be evangelical about menopause education, great. If they just want to go do their thing and live their lives, also great. Like the agenda is that we support one another. And it's so interesting because I think a lot of this, I started it and then COVID and the lockdown happened and then people really needed to be together. They really needed to be together a lot. And so people value that. One of the last questions that we had on the coaching call was somebody was saying like, well, they were talking about what do they charge? Yeah. It's always a thing for women, right? Well, how do I value myself? I don't want, and it's like, well, that's a whole other conversation, but she specifically mentioned, well, so-and-so, a celebrity, has this online thing. Sorry, my kitten is like insane. So crazy. Like, I think hold on. I'm going to let him out because I think he's locked in here with me. Hold on. Hello. So sorry. Pet interruptions.
It's okay.
But she was like, well, so-and-so has this master class and it's only $30 online. And how can I compete with that? I was like, wait. First of all, this is not a competition. Second of all, this person can scale it because she's got 5 kajillion, people on her list who are buying it. And she's doing great work. We all agree. This is not either or. Like what you're offering is your time. You're offering people being together. They're not on a Zoom call. They're not sitting alone on their phone at night watching that, which is a great way to get education. You're providing this whole other universe of connections for people, which are so, so important. Everybody on the Zoom was like, yes.
They were nodding.
Right. Because we need all of it. We need both. We need everything. And everybody doesn't respond to the same thing. We don't all learn the same way. But I do think that motivation to be around each other, to destigmatize, to normalize the vocabulary, to not feel ashamed about saying like, this is happening for me and I don't know what to do. I need help. That right there is what humans are supposed to do for each other. It's really all that I'm doing. It's not that fancy.
You're connecting people in the way that young women with their children form play groups. They support each other. They drive each other in carpool. I mean, why should it be a different thing. Women do this. They face each other in a group and take care of each other.
Yeah.
The question I want to put before you is, and your partner is probably in the same boat as my husband Peter is. Poor Peter is just a menopause expert, but for the 15% of people who listen to this podcast who were not born with ovaries, as I like to say, how do we begin to help them feel comfortable because not all women talk to their partners the way you and I probably do.
Right.
Yeah. So right now.
Well, I mean, do you want me to address the non-ovary owners? Because I think it's hard.
I want you to get some questions asked.
I think it's really a matter of patience and curiosity, which is really kind of the key to any relationship. You know, some humility, which allows you to be curious and just ask questions because you don't know, and patience, because sometimes she's really feeling terrible and she's probably not going to be that nice about it. And I'm just going to apologize for her right now.
Can't help it. My age was not purposeful.
Totally. Like now, whatever is going on, like I can't blame it on hormones because I'm well past that. But I will say, and I'm in a different relationship than I was in when I wrote the book and did all that. And my partner at the time was amazing. Like honestly, he went through the whole thing with me. He kind of was recognizing a lot of things before I was, which is interesting because he had been historically had dated women much older than him and also was a trainer who really had like a huge number of clients that were middle-aged women and older. So he, in a weird way, in retrospect, I feel like he kind of noticed it before I did.
Like, this thing going on with you.
Totally. He would be like, like you pick a fight at this time every single month, right? And I was like, oh, I do, and he did it in a very gentle way. And then of course he really helped me with the physical health aspects of it. I was a long-term fitness person myself and like things were changing and I didn't feel right. And I couldn't do things. I went through a whole shoulder thing. Like right. I had the classic. So I will say him just being kind of like not taking everything personally for a partner, trying not to bring things up in the middle of something, and maybe doing a little reading on your own and, hey, honey, I read that 20% of people will have vaginal dryness before they have a change in their period. I mean, really, like it might be awkward. I mean, are you having any problems or how can I help you? I don't think guys really want to solve stuff. I know that.
Yes,
and it's so hard for them because what we need, especially during this time, is just support and maybe space. And not necessarily a solution. And so that's really hard to not be so solutions oriented, but to feel like you're making some space and room to grow together. I think the other thing is for people who are in, heterosexual couples, like there's just a lot of stuff that changes in terms of communication, in terms of sexuality. And again, for both of us, and again, just being open and curious and having conversations that might be uncomfortable, but be willing to bring those up in a loving way. That's what a relationship is. I mean, that's vulnerability, that's intimacy. And I mean, that having a partner that can be supportive and not make everything about themselves is really helpful. I mean, because I hear the other side of it too. And of course, because of the work I do, people tell me everything. And I've been very blessed to have very long-term relationships with my patients. I mean, many of them have been with me my whole career. I have patients that I delivered as babies who are in their 20s. It's wild. But I know, it's really amazing. I mean, the longevity of those relationships is amazing. But I know, and I'll tell you, one of the things I hear a lot is from the patient that they don't want to say anything. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And that's not really helpful. That's not being honest. So we have to take some ownership. If something doesn't feel good or we're not in the mood or whatever it is, or you're annoying me, like I need to take responsibility for my feelings and bring it up in a loving way. So faking it, whatever it is not okay. But the other side is when the partner, and this can be from a female partner too, is sort of feeling abandoned and so grabbing at stuff, that often makes somebody retreat. And it's not sexy.
The opposite.
It's not sexy. Feeling like you're, just like there's a demand made on you doesn't turn you on. So, I mean, I could talk about this endlessly because I think the other thing too is there's a lot of misconceptions about like what is libido, what is sexual, what is sexy? Does sex have to be this versus that? Like, what about intimacy? You know, there's a lot. If it's just like penis and vagina and I'm going to sleep by, like maybe that's, you know, like you might not really be craving that, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's that actually desire in women tends to be responsive, not spontaneous. So if that person isn't doing anything to get you in the mood, whether it's like doing the dishes for you or telling you you look beautiful, or whatever it is for you.
During the day.
Yes, exactly. Hours before. Yes. Like maybe you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I hope that you and I are in the same generation. I think we're the same age, actually. I always say things like, I hope that for my millennial daughters who are in the throes of having babies right now, by the time they get to their 40th birthday, when estrogen's walking out the door, not only they, but their spouses know. Yeah. So that it's not such an alarming conversation that we have to plan around not having in the cold of the moment, frankly, not the heat of the moment.
Right.
But they'll be able to have family conversations about, oh my God, I'm 40. Things are going to happen.
Yes.
They've made their HRT decisions. They know what kind of lube is best for the next instead of it being such a slap in the face.
Well, I mean, I'm having people coming in now in their late 30s and early 40s. Honestly, it's like so wild to me that within, you know, my book was published a little over 2 years ago, and it's a completely different landscape out there. And I will say, you know, I mean, listen, obviously my son who's 27 is not the average, you know, guy. He was raised by a zoologist. So I don't know that we should use him really but he's so much more attuned to his female friends and his sister and me than I think other generations have been, because partly because he was raised by a gynecologist, but partly because that generation just talks more about stuff. We're just, I think you're right, more open. Yeah. There's less, I mean, there's less shame around bodies and things like that. You know, we had to battle a lot of stuff, but the culture is still so, like so misogynist, and so women have a certain role. And the thing is, we at a certain point as adult women have to unwind some of that. We get to have our feelings about it. Maybe we're angry, maybe we feel grief, but we have to take responsibility for ourselves and own our own narrative and own our own lives.
And realize the role that we have played, because I often say, we are not the victims of the passage of time. We are the 51%. We don't actually have to ask permission for anything. We just need to exercise our ability to make choices, the agency we have. Yeah. Sometimes I think we are our own worst victim, enemy, because we play the victim role.
Yeah.
We ask for permission.
Yeah.
As if somebody has mother may I, right? Or whatever. I think you're right that we need to recognize that we're sentient beings with agency.
Yeah.
And for most people have the power to choose.
Yeah. Choose something. Obviously, you know, you and I are
something.
But there's always something you can make a choice about. And I will say that I think one of the gifts of menopause is that it's that recognition. The transformation that we make, the transformation that I have made, is to really find my voice, to understand my worth, to find the people who I can trust, who I can bounce things off when I am feeling shaky about it. Nobody feels confident like this all the time. Please, that's not human. But we do have to face each other, and we have to find that group that really gets and supports and holds us up and also tells us the truth, you know. But this, I am, you know, again, I'm going to harken back to this conversation I just had. One of the women on the call is like really squarely in perimenopause. And she said, what to those of you who are past or post-menopause, what hope can you offer us? I know. And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, and people said a lot, like a couple of people said some really great things. And one of them was that I said, look, when you're going through it, it just is so hard. It's so challenging. At least we're getting the message out slowly, but surely that there are things that we can do to do better. Okay. We still have to get that message out. Like, you and I are in an echo chamber sometimes, right? Because this is all we see and our algorithm knows this. And I still know every day, and I know you do, that people just are not getting the information, but we're doing a little bit better. But the thing is, when you're in it, you got to understand, like, it's not going to be like that the entire time. And at the end of it, for me, oh my gosh, first of all, not being subjected to the unpredictable vicissitudes of my hormones is so great. Like, I had no idea how hard that was for me, even before perimenopause. I really did not get it. And now I'm like smooth sailing pretty much, not all the time. But, for me, this is pretty smooth. The other thing is that I like I said, I found my voice, I found my community, and I am having more creativity than I have ever had in my entire life. It is such a blessing. It's amazing. So this is our gift to ourselves, and it's our gift to the world. Now, if the world doesn't want to see it, doesn't want to like it, doesn't want to accept it, I mean, this may sound weird, but like, that's kind of not my business.
Right. They can do them. We're going to march on.
Exactly.
Yeah. I am really serious when I say to people, these are the best years. 25 was easy. These are the best years. So I believe that. And you know what? Maybe you and I have talked about this before. I am suddenly feeling like, oh my God, I might run out of time. Because, I don't know, life, I want to live to 97 or beyond, but
that's no time. You really think about it in a different way. I mean, I had I had a major medical illness in my 40s. I had cancer, which wasn't like a late stage cancer. So I was very, very lucky. But that really brought things into focus for me because I was like, whoa, shit actually can happen. Like, I'm not there's no shield around me. Like, bad things could happen to me too. So that was the first thing. And interestingly, Vonda, I was squarely in perimenopause. Didn't really realize that. I was like 46, 47. So hello, I was right in the middle of it. But that was the first thing that really changed my life. But I have to say recently, that's so interesting that you say that, because I have thought about like, wow, like if this was it, would that be okay? Like, and I feel really good about what I've done and what I do and how I live. I mean, I'm not ready to leave my kids, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready to go. I'm not saying I'm ready to go, but I'm just like, I think about it in a very different way. Like, this is the chapter. This is the final, not the final chapter. I'm past the halfway mark. I definitely am.
Definitely.
And so I want to, but that's the other thing that also helps me, because it's like, well, is this decision, is this thought, is this person, is this feeling, is this experience really worth my precious time? Because if it's not, I really don't want to spend a lot of my precious time on that.
Let it go.
Yeah.
So as we close, I want you to, you're shifting practices.
Yeah.
You're going to go into your own concierge private practice. Where are we going to find you now? And how do people know if they're right for your new practice?
Okay. So if you need to be in California or come to California. I will invite you to California to come join me. I think if you are interested in first of all, it's a membership model. So as of April 1st, I will only be taking care of my members, and it's a year-long program where you're paying upfront for many, many things that you probably wouldn't get with any other doctor. So I am really pulling in more prevention, longevity, some more cutting edge tools to help women address and assess where they are now and where they want to go. Unfortunately for me, what I've seen is that women tend to fall through the cracks when it comes to prevention and to primary care. And for those of them who have like an amazing, very accessible, very open-minded primary care doc, this is probably not something they need. But a lot of my patients don't get that. Our male cohorts are all getting, for instance, cardiometabolic screening immediately. They've 50, they already had it all done. And my patients in their 50s have to like bug their doctor to be like, hey, and they get patted on the head and dismissed half the time. So that is not okay. I'm not cool with that. And I really want to pull a lot of that in. So if somebody is looking for a more comprehensive long-term approach, this is a great opportunity. I'm still doing regular gynecology. I'm still doing all the gynecology and the wellness and the hormones and all that stuff. And you don't have to be perimenopausal or menopausal. If you're 35 and have PCOS, this is a great opportunity. So, but you do have to at least see me once here. So I think, that they can find me on my social media. There's lots of posts, and there's the link to Monarch.
We're going to post it.
Yeah, which they'll have all that. But I'm actually going to have more time to do my writing and my speaking and my retreats and, my appearances. And I'm going to have more time with my patients.
Yeah.
There's so many amazing things going on. Obviously, Dr. Corinne Mann and I are doing a breast cancer survivor retreat and
In Portugal.
in Portugal in June.
That's so nice.
It's going to be amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have time to really go to more conferences. I want to see you at a longevity conference because I'm really excited about that. My heart has always been there, and it was very hard to do that in the system that I was working in. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for this next phase for you, and I'm thankful for your friendship every day.
Yes.
Mercy.
Wake up to 500 texts from you guys. Oh, not necessarily you, but
No. So, well, thank you. Thank you.
oh my God, thank you so much for being you and having me on and the inspiration that you are, because you're really out there doing something important, like really important, especially from the field you're in.
My field is interesting, but this is work worth doing. And
Yes.
thanks that we can do it together.
Yeah, me too.
I'm Dr. Vonda Wright. See you next week.